Hello, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Saturday, September 21st, one day away from another full Sunday of NFL football. Week number 3 got kicked off on Thursday night and will continue tomorrow. And then we got a double dip on Monday night with 2 Monday night games. So lots of action coming up over the next 48 hours around the NFL. Cannot wait. Should be another great week. Today, we will be breaking down all of the week 3 action, getting you ready for tomorrow's games and, of course, Monday as well. This is episode 30 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Appreciate you always joining us. Please make sure to like and subscribe. DiMari, we've made it. It's another week. Season's flying by. It's already week 3. Big week. Week 3, week 4, big week. Final 2 weeks of September. Once September closes out, October's really where you start to which teams are real, which teams aren't. The rust starts to really get knocked off. This is where things really start to get fun. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I mean, week 3, I'm already stressed. I'm already checked out. I've already lost confidence, but it's a long season, and it kind of feels like the season is flying by a little too quickly. I can't believe we're already in week 3. And once October starts, like you said, rust starts to kind of kick off. We see some of these important divisional matchups that is going to shape us for the playoffs. Next thing you know, we are in January. Playoff times is here, but I'm excited to get into the games that we have for tomorrow. Should be a lot of pretty good games, a few primetime games I'm looking forward to. So let's get into it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little stressful for you. Luckily for me, though, not nice stress-free Sunday we got coming up here. The Jets win on Thursday night, so that's nice stress-free weekend. And before they face off against Denver next week, but we got to get to the biggest story. We'll get to obviously the games coming up tomorrow. We'll get to our underdog picks. We'll break down a couple 2-0 teams if they're for real or not. We'll get into some rookie quarterback struggles. But first, we got to start with really the biggest story right now going into this weekend in the NFL. The biggest story this week in the NFL, and that is in Carolina. It feels like anytime a story comes out of Carolina, it's never good. And I would say this is another example of a story that is not a good thing. Bryce Young benched this week. Head coach David Canales announced on Monday. 2 games this season, 18 games total in his career. Obviously, rookie year last year, his second season. It took only 2 games this year for the Panthers to obviously feel he should ride the pine a little bit. In 2 games, 245 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks, 55.4 completion percentage, passer rating of 44.1, and a QBR. Get ready for this, Panthers fans. You're going to want to cover your ears. QBR of 9.4. So a brutal start for Bryce Young. And it's an ugly, ugly situation in Carolina. Not only are you 0-2, but now your first overall pick that you traded away DJ Moore and many other assets to acquire that first overall pick. Not only is he now failing, and 18 games into his career, he is now benched, but you're also 0-2, and you're staring at another season where it's slipping away fast. And this Carolina Panthers team is so bad. The organization's in such a bad spot. I mean, you're looking at probably another 3-4 win season at most. I don't think Andy Dalton is going to pull off vintage Bengals Andy Dalton, go out there and have an AJ Green connection with Adam Thielen this weekend and turn things around for this Carolina Panthers team. But it's an ugly situation. But I guess just first, before we get into the future, what was your reaction to this Bryce Young news happening very early on in this year?
I was actually quite surprised. I mean, I know he has struggled and hasn't produced what he and hasn't produced and been what they wanted him to be, but at the same time, I kind of feel bad for Bryce Young because when from the outside perspective, when we look into just say statistics, we look at a quarterback that's struggling 0-2, instantly the first thing our minds go to, okay, well, this quarterback just sucks. Like this quarterback obviously was a bust. We don't take into consideration, okay, well, how's the offensive line holding up? How's the running game behind the quarterback? How's the play calling? How's the weapons? Are the weapons getting open? Are the weapons making it easier for the quarterback? Like we're not taking all those things into perspective. It's just instantly like, okay, well, Bryce Young sucks and he can't play quarterback. I mean, watching the last 2 games, he has had some questionable throws. He has struggled. But what quarterback in the NFL doesn't have some questionable throws and some questionable interceptions and struggles here and there? So I really think this is less about Bryce Young just being a bad quarterback like people make it seem. Obviously, yes, he has not played the best. He has not played like a number one draft pick. But I don't think this is more about Bryce Young just being terrible. I think it's more about the surrounding cast around him is absolutely terrible. The offensive line is still not good whatsoever. They don't have a good running game. I mean, your best weapon is, you can argue, Adam Thielen, who is elderly. It's a bad situation for Carolina. I mean, I was talking to a few of my friends about this the other day at work. I don't even think Mahomes could be successful in that Carolina system. As good as Patrick Mahomes is, I just think there's not enough like production from the weapons and no strength in play calling for Bryce Young to be successful. I don't think anyone else can be successful as a quarterback for the Panthers right now.
Yeah, I mean it's just a tough spot. I mean, the organization as a whole, not just forget about even just the play on the field, the front office to the owner. I mean, David Tepper is probably the most meddlesome, the probably worst owner in football right now, with the way he's taken that organization and basically shake it up like a snow globe. And it's a disaster, and it's tough to succeed. I mean, look, it's tough to succeed if you're Bryce Young, and like you said, I think you nailed it on the head with the fact that he hasn't played up to the number one overall pick billing. We all understand that. But you're automatically right away, you're doing your quarterback a disservice the minute you fire the coach midway through his rookie year, because now you've got to bring in another coach. That's one of the worst things you can do. Not, surrounding him with no talent isn't good. Surrounding him with older talent like Thielen, who's past his prime, and maybe some unproven talent. I mean, they probably could have upgraded a little bit more at running back this year. I don't know really what the ceiling is for Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. I mean, I know they obviously Miles Sanders hasn't ever since that 1 year in Philly hasn't really been the same back there, and hasn't the run game so far through 2 weeks is averaging under 4 yards a carry, which isn't good. But the worst thing you could do is fire the coach. He's now in his second coach. He's played 18 games, however many of them with Frank Wright, the interim, now with Dave Canales. Now he's benched. It's just a mess. It is a complete mess there. And yeah, I mean, the talent around him isn't great. I mean, sure, you drafted Xavier Legette, you've got Deontay Johnson, but you really don't have a true number one. I mean, Thielen's past his prime of being a number one. If we're being honest, he really never was a number one. It was Diggs that was the number one through those years, and then Justin Jefferson. He's always been a good two, not a number one. Legette's a rookie. Deontay Johnson's good. He's not a one. And then you really don't have a number one running back either. So, yeah, it's tough to succeed. And the offensive line, of course, they went out and signed Robert Hunt out of Miami to the massive, I believe it was a 5-year contract. But one piece on the offensive line at right guard is not going to change the entire O-line, especially for Bryce Young, who is a smaller quarterback, needs to have time in the pocket, can't have the pocket collapsing in front of him where it would be tough for him to see downfield. And that's, I know people joke about that, but that's not a joke. I mean, that's just legitimately pocket collapsing for a smaller quarterback like that. He needs to have a clean pocket. So it's all around a mess. Everybody, I think, in my opinion, has a hand in this. Bryce Young hasn't played well enough. Like you said, the players around him haven't played well enough. Offensive line hasn't played well enough. The organization hasn't helped them. I mean, Dave Canales was, if we're being honest, brought in here to help Bryce Young. And now he's benching him 2 weeks in. So I guess, what are your expectations for Andy Dalton? I mean, how long is this going to last? Are we going to see Bryce Young again this year? Is this the end of the road? I mean, the Panthers will continue to say, no, we'll see Bryce Young again. This is just a opportunity for him to sit and learn. I got news for you. The Jets said the same thing about Zach Wilson. So we know how this goes about benching quarterbacks. Sometimes this could be it. I mean, I think he'll play again, but it dampers the possibility of him being a future quarterback, especially if they get a top 3 pick this year where they can get a look at a Quinn Ewers, a Shedeur Sanders, a Carson Beck, one of those guys.
I mean, respectfully, I think they're averaging maybe 9 points per game. I think I seen yesterday. I could be wrong. So the bar is no longer than lower than 9 points per game. Like, if Andy Dalton goes in there and scores 10 tomorrow, he's done his job. So I think for Carolina's sake, all they really want to see is Andy Dalton get in, be productive, take care of the ball, put some points up on the board. I know, like, it sounds like a big picture, but a quarterback looking at just the black and white, like as a quarterback, you kind of have a few easy steps in being a quarterback. And what I mean by that is we just need you to take care of the ball. We need you to put points on the board and just don't put the team in a bad situation. Again, that refers back to don't turn the ball over. So I think they just want to see Andy Dalton get in there and just, move the ball down the field, make some great reads, get the weapons open, put some points on the board. And they just want Bryce Young to kind of learn from that. I don't think this is kind of the door for Andy Dalton to be a starter and start kind of maybe his villain arc of, okay, well, you got everyone gave up on me. Now I'm about to come to Carolina and take over as a starter. Like, that's not happening. Bryce Young will obviously get the opportunity again this year. But I think just for now, they just want to see some positivity because the bar is at the absolute lowest it can be for the Panthers.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also part of it could be the locker room might be getting out of hand. They need to kind of stabilize it. And Canals kind of hinted to that in the interview that they need some things to work on the offense. And you can work on those things. Those things can get better with a veteran under center, with a guy like Dalton who has experience, who maybe can find a way to have some of these kinks, have some of these issues get knocked out while he's out there. But I mean, look, here's the reality. And I know the Saints right now look like the 2007 Patriots. I mean, if we're being honest here, it looks like they're going to go 16-0 and go to the Super Bowl. But prior to that, you looked at this Panthers schedule to open up the year, and you were thinking to yourself, man, the first 3 weeks are pretty favorable. You've got the Saints, you've got the Chargers, who neither of us believed in, but here we are, they're 2-0. And you've got the Raiders, who are 1-1 right now, but going in, we all thought they're probably average at best. And somehow, some way, the Saints have been outscored 47-10 in week 1, 26-3 last week. Like you said, 13 points in 2 games, whatever that totals out to be in over 2 games. And then 63-13 in 2 weeks? Yeah, I mean, that is, if my math's correct, that's awful. And again, we'll see. Week 3 is big, but if the Chargers and Saints are for real, okay, you can understand. But on paper, you could have seen the Panthers with average offensive play going into the season. You thought, oh, heck, this team might be 2-1 going into the Bengals. And here they are, they're 0-2, and they're probably going to be 0-3 because they stink. You know what? To be honest, 73 actually to 13 in their first 2 games. I will say this. And I'm not saying the Panthers would be 2-0 right now. They would have went 15-2 last year as opposed to 2-15. But I feel like a lot of the Panthers' failures recently over the last couple seasons, specifically last year and into this year, there was something about Steve Wilkes when he took over as interim coach that the team believed in. Like, he had the players playing for him. They were winning games. I think they went 6-2 or something down the stretch. He got them actually back into playoff contention after they fired Matt Rule halfway through that year. And then they didn't bring Steve Wilkes back. Instead, they went for Frank Wright, the offensive mind, rookie quarterback. You could sort of understand it. But I don't know. I'm not saying they would be that good, but I feel like from a coaching perspective, Dave Canales is so in over his head. Frank Wright was, if you can be washed as a head coach, he was washed. And Steve Wilkes, I mean, he had him playing well. He had the guys believing. They bought into his message. They were winning games. And they didn't, I don't know. I don't know how different would it be, but I mean, they've won 2-17 in their last. I don't know. They are like the NFL at some point's got to step in and say, what the heck are you doing? They are so awful. It's crazy.
I mean, what can the NFL possibly do? They're just a bad football team all around. Again, I mean, there's no weapons whatsoever. If this was maybe like 2016 Adam Thielen, then yeah, I'm like, okay, Legette's still a rookie. And Deontay Johnson, I've personally never been a big Deontay Johnson fan. I mean, how I kind of look at it, a guy doesn't get traded for no reason. Either you are a locker room problem, you just not a great player when it comes to production, or you are a respected vet and just like a Devontae Adams, and throw that out, or you're like a Devontae Adams, you're a respected vet, you're getting up there in age, and it's like, all right, look, we're not going to win no time soon. Let's go get you somewhere where you can win. Deontay Johnson does not fall into any of those 3 categories.
Nope. Definitely not going to win in Carolina.
I mean, I've never been a big fan. So when Pittsburgh looked at Pickens and they looked at Johnson and said, which one can we ship out of here? You pick Deontay Johnson. There's a reason behind it. So obviously he's over there in Carolina for a reason. So, I mean, you didn't get it, your young quarterback any talent literally whatsoever. So, I mean, what can he do right now?
Yeah. There's not much. I mean, there's nothing. I will say this. Is Canales can't be fully safe, right?
Absolutely not.
I mean, that's just crazy. 3 coaches
Absolutely
in
not.
3 years. I mean, we're gonna. I mean, here. I mean, I guess this is the blueprint. What, you draft Shedeur, Dion leaves Colorado, takes over in Carolina. Is that the blueprint here for the Panthers?
That's literally the worst thing they can possibly do. Because even
Can it be any
Shador, now
worse, bro? Can it be any worse? I mean, I asked myself all the years through the Jet as a Jets fan, can it get any worse? And like now as
with
the Panthers, it's
Shador,
like, can it get
it
any
probably
worse?
it probably can. Shador's not.
Oh,
At least Bryce Young has a little mobility to kind of get out of certain situations.
yeah, I think
Shador's running
Shedeur is
on
going to be a
cinder
huge
blocks in the
bust.
pocket.
I agree.
He can't. There's no way. And
And
then
him with the offensive line too, he
exactly,
won't
we
take any
already seen how he is
accountability.
with
He'll
the
be
offensive line. No, absolutely not. He tried the little PR stunt where week one, well, what was that, week 2 against Nebraska? He's like, okay, well, how much times did Raiola get touched? And then it's
yeah,
the offensive line. And then last week, oh, let's bring the whole offensive line in the press conference with me because I love my guys so much. You weren't just saying that last week when you're talking about you getting bashed in the head all day by the D line.
yeah,
No. And the NFL is completely different. The NFL is like, these guys are like, okay, I'm already making my money. And if I play bad, you're just going to send me somewhere else. Who
yeah,
cares? 4 weeks, Shador is completely bashing his offensive line. They're going to make it. The security guard kind of
oh
letting
yeah,
everybody through.
yeah,
That's going to be the offensive line.
yeah.
Shador would not work in Carolina.
No,
Not at all.
not at all. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Dalton infuses a spark. I mean, it's weird because we haven't really seen Andy Dalton in a while. I mean, he played 3 games last year. I think he started. How many of those did he act? I think he started 1 game last year, but took the field or whatever for 3. I don't know. I know he started that 1 game against Seattle, where he actually played pretty well. I think he had 2 touchdowns. Obviously spent some time in New Orleans, had the Dallas runs. He's been all over the place the last couple seasons since 2020. So we'll see what he brings to the table. 36 years old, veteran. Veteran voice is a calming presence in the huddle. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some improvement. How much improvement? I mean, let's be honest here. If they go out there and score 13 points, that's improvement. So take
The
improvement
bar
as
is
you will,
low.
I guess. Yeah, bar is very
The
low.
bar is 13. So you've at 13. So
In 2 weeks. So if you
six
score
and a half
13 in 1 week,
points.
you're already doubling your points from 2 weeks. I mean, that is progress.
If you score a touchdown, they're averaging 6.5 points per game. If you score a touchdown, you've already exceeded expectations.
Yeah.
They need a touchdown on the board. That's
Yeah.
it.
It's a passing touchdown. Bryce Young hasn't threw one. Yeah. Dude, passing touchdown. They might throw a parade for that.
That's the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Forget about New Orleans. We already got a parade in Carolina.
Oh, man. I know we talked about during the offseason, right before we move on to the next topic. I know we bashed Carolina sports during this offseason. It's deserving. It was literally deserving. I think we didn't tell a single lie. I mean, it's just Charlotte is not the place to be right now.
No. And I have nothing against the Panthers, so I do feel for Panthers fans a little bit. I mean, they just stink. If this was like the Patriots right now, I'm drinking Patriots fans' tears. I love it. I love that they suck.
Absolutely.
I wish they could lose every other game. But the Panthers, I have nothing. I mean, they're in the NFC South. I have nothing against the Panthers. So I do feel for Panthers fans because if we're being honest, you got an owner that's awful. You got an organization that just doesn't seem like I honestly, this is harsh, they just look like they don't care. That's how bad they are. They just look like they don't care. And that's the worst spot you can be in, especially as a fan, when they're taking the field every Sunday and you're just getting your doors blown off. But here we are. Carolina, come get some. All right. Anyway, let's move on here. Rookie quarterback, some struggles. some with the number 1 overall pick, some with Bo Nix and the Broncos. I want to start with Bo Nix, not because he's been bad or worse than Caleb Williams. It has nothing to do with that. We got to play this clip. I mean, this clip is fantastic. Bo Nix's in-depth analysis of how he threw an interception.
Bo, can you take us through the interception in the end zone?
Yeah. Drop back, threw it to the other team.
And that is just fantastic. That was awesome. He went to the Torian Prince School of
rebounds. That's what I instantly thought of, the Torian Prince rebounds.
Yep.
Oh,
Drop
man.
back through to the defense. That was fantastic. That was a highlight. And even if you're obviously this Broncos fan right now that's frustrated and upset, rightfully so, with his bad performances through 2 weeks or his struggling performances through 2 weeks, that was kind of a highlight right there. I mean, drop back, throw it to the defense. That was fantastic. That is something that when you see that from an athlete, that'll be something that gets replayed for a while. Similar to Torian Prince, who still to this day is a gem. I still laugh at that interview all the time. So we got another one of those. Bo Nix and Torian Prince on the Mount Rushmore of press conferences.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway,
that's something.
Yeah, I wanted to start with that. So Bo Nix, real stuff now, not the press conference. Through 2 games has struggled. He's looked pretty bad, I think you would probably say. 384 yards through 2 games, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions. They've been some questionable, head-scratching question or interceptions that leave Broncos fans questioning, what can this guy do? How is he in the NFL? He's completed 59.7% of his passes, a 51 passer rating, 36.4 QBR. I don't think the expectations for Bo Nix were that high going in. Of course, an experienced player, 24 years old with a lot of college experience, where maybe you thought he could maybe catch on to the NFL game, but we know that the roster around him isn't immensely talented. The Broncos are obviously going through a rebuild after the Russ era. I mean, I guess, what are your thoughts on Bo Nix's 2 games so far? And I understand if you want to look at this from an angle of not making excuses for him, but an angle of he's faced off against 2 tough situations. Going to Seattle in that environment in your first NFL game is not easy. That is very, very hard. And then coming home and having to face Pittsburgh and that defense is very, very hard. And it's not going to get any easier because now they got to go on the road in Tampa and then they got to face the Jets next week. So early on here, Bo Nix has got a lot of tough tests that aren't easy for a rookie quarterback, any quarterback, but especially a rookie. So I guess that could be some of it, but either way, no touchdowns and 4 picks in 2 games is no touchdowns and 4 picks, no matter which way you want to spin it. What are your thoughts on what Nix has done so far?
Yeah, I want to give the benefit of a doubt. Like you just said, I mean, to go into Seattle 12th man like that, no matter how bad Seattle is as a football team, that is a hard place to play. And then you said it was Pittsburgh last week, I believe.
Yeah.
You played Pittsburgh. I mean, look at how Kirk Cousins looked, for instance, week 1. And that Falcons offense looked week 1 against Pittsburgh. And look how they looked against Philly when they just played Philly. So, I mean, Pittsburgh is a very tough defense. And simple as it is, they just don't have the playmakers to look good against defenses like that. So for Bo Nix, I mean, you expect the rookie to make mistakes. I think for a lot of rookies kind of coming in now, what's going to be tough is, okay, how can I be CJ Stroud? And I think that's an expectation that we probably don't talk about as much as we can or as we should, but rookies are now coming in and they are expected to be as successful as CJ Stroud was in his first year. That's not the case. Bo Nix is Bo Nix. He's not CJ Stroud for a reason. So I think just with Bo Nix, I mean, he's going to continue to get more comfortable in the system. Obviously, the offense still is not completely gelled together, plays some very tough defenses to start. But I mean, I think, like you just said, for Nix and the team, there's no expectations whatsoever. So you kind of just let him continue to ride it out, kind of let him continue to get comfortable. before you decide to go in another direction, which Stidham and Zach Wilson won't be any better. So with Nix, yeah, man, just be patient with him and just let the game come to him. I think right now he's just pressing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think I totally agree with that last part too. You got to give him time. I mean, I know some people, I mean, even I know some Jets fans I've heard from some people I know say, oh, are the Jets going to see Stidham or Zach? Is Zach going to be starting under center next week at MetLife? I think it would be awful if Denver benches Bo Nix 3 games into his NFL career. I mean, this is a guy that you could already tell is not struggling with confidence, but trying to just gain some sort of confidence in the NFL. Doesn't quite have it yet. Not that he's not confident, but he doesn't quite have confidence yet. If you bench him, his confidence is shot. 2 games into or 3 games into his NFL career, it's done. I will also say this about Bo Nix, that I don't think all of it's his fault. I think some of it is and you heard the big, really where this popped up was about last weekend's Pittsburgh, like the limited playbook that Denver has for Bo Nix, where they're kind of limiting him only to certain throws, certain things. And it came up last week against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh cornerback. This was from James Palmer of NFL. He said, I'm talking to Steelers corners and they're sitting there laughing in the corner room. We knew the playbook was this big. They said, another corner said, we know they weren't going to take any shots. We know what he likes to do. They're going to make it easy on him to go here and here or here and there. And that's all we had to worry about. Like, they knew basically that the Broncos right now under Sean Payton essentially are running such a vanilla offense for Bo Nix that defenses are catching up on it, are seeing it so easily that they've got to take some more chances. And this is a big deal with rookie quarterbacks. Like, teams, they try and I understand you don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to go out there and be stupid with them. But you got to sometimes let a rookie quarterback like breathe a little bit. Give him some, like, take some chances, take some risks. Everything in the Broncos offense right now has been so like, Bo, you can't do this, you can't do that. You've got to, like, it's been such like a small condensed offense. And Bo Nix even said, if you're too simple, they'll just pick it apart. Like, they've got to take some more chances, take some more risks. You can't play so much of a boring style of offense where opposing defenses, especially those of the level of Pittsburgh, they're just going to pick you apart.
It's literally just training wheels. They have the training wheels on Bo Nix. I mean, that's how I kind of look at it. And I mean, hear me out. I feel like this makes sense in the moment. This is probably not even the situation whatsoever. But as a quarterback, and you're talking about confidence, as a quarterback, if Bo Nix knows the playbook is limited, so just say Bo Nix goes out, doesn't have a good game, is there going to be anything in his mind where it's like, if I'm missing and messing up on the simple reads and the simple throws, they're not going to open up the playbook for me? So that, again, shoots your confidence. And again, I could just be speculating, but I just feel like that is a human thing where it's like, all right, you know, I haven't done this too well. How am I going to gain the trust from the head coach and the offensive coordinator if I can't throw the simple, you know, out route against a certain coverage? They're not going to trust me. And I feel like you just said perfectly, you can't keep that offense too condensed because, one, that's going to mess up the quarterback's confidence. They want more. And I think I just said it. Eventually, they're going to start pressing. They're going to want more. I don't want to keep, you know, everything easy, everything underneath. I want to show, hey, look, I had this big arm in college. I was an athlete in college. Let me show this on the pro level. That's what you drafted me here to do. So for Bo Nix's sake and for Denver's sake, no expectations. I know we keep saying it like we're basically a broken record at this point. There's no expectations whatsoever. You're not winning the division. You're not making the playoffs. As much as you would like to, it's just not happening. There is no risk whatsoever and just letting Bo Nix go out there and completely just fling the ball around.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing to lose. There just isn't. I also think, you know, they should try and get Sutton involved a little bit more. He had 1 catch last week. I know he was targeted 4 times, and he was targeted 12 times in week 1. But he's got to get involved, or they got to try and get him to get going, I should say, a little bit more than he's been the first 2 weeks of the season. 5 catches on 16 targets is not exactly a good ratio. It's 11 incompletions. I don't know how exactly many of those are drops. But yeah, I mean, utilize your weapons, utilize some of that talent. That's what I agree with you. I mean, this team's not going to make the playoffs. We knew that going in, especially not going to win the division, right? Kansas City. But is it crazy? Like, you don't want the season either to get completely out of hand where you're 0-8, 0-9, and you're like now all of a sudden the locker room's breaking apart. I mean, they're 0-2. If they lose this week, they're 0-3. The Jets will be tough. Let's say you're 0-4. Like, you get to 0-4, you get to 0-5 range. That's where you start to have questions about the coach. No matter what the expectation was going into the season, you've got to be more competitive than that, especially if you want to send the fans into the offseason feeling confident about Peyton and the Knicks combo. So you got to take some chances, take some risks. Because while, no, you're not a team that's 0-2 with Super Bowl aspirations, 0-2 is 0-2, and you don't want to completely fall off where at the end of the year you're looking at a 3-14 record. You want to be somewhat competitive down the stretch, but we'll see. We'll see. It's definitely a bumpy start for sure, though. I don't think all of it's on Knicks. I think it's everybody similar to, I guess, what we were talking about Carolina. Not nearly as bad, but the point where everybody feels like they have the hand in the jar. Peyton's got to unleash him a little bit more. Knicks, of course, got to make some better decisions, got to get the receivers involved. Receivers got to play better for Knicks. So a little bit of everybody, but we'll see. Tampa's not going to be an easy matchup as well. Now, want to get to Caleb Williams as well. I think this one is probably the bigger story because it's Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams' expectations as the number 1 overall pick were much higher than Bo Nix. But through 2 games, Bears 1-1 should be 0-2. If we're being completely honest, the Bears should be 0-2, and we should be. Caleb Williams would be getting talked about so much more if the Bears were 0-2. You'd be looking at it and say they're winless. Caleb Williams hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. Not a good start at all. Of course, thanks to Tennessee, thanks to Will Levis being Will Levis, they won that game. What are your thoughts on what you've seen from Caleb Williams so far? Bumpy start as well. No touchdowns through 120 minutes of football.
I mean, I'm going to go 3 for 3, and I'm going to say it again. Caleb Williams has played bad, made some bad decisions, but at the same time, the weapons around him have not been useful and helpful. I mean, we talked about it off air with DeAndre Swift, who I literally don't know. I had very high expectations for Swift. He obviously has not met those expectations. Keenan Allen is hurt. DJ Moore is seeing a lot of double coverage. That means he's the only one on the field. Roman Dunze is dropping balls. I think they even had like a 40-year-old Mercedes Lewis out there running routes for him against Houston. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? For Caleb, I mean, it looks worse because he's the number 1 pick. And I mean, they had a very solid quarterback, you can say. And I mean, Justin Fields is backing that up every week. So you see Fields playing, you see Williams playing, you're just like, oh, did Chicago make a mistake? So for Williams, higher expectations, I mean, I was very high on them, even thought they would make the playoffs. But again, he's a rookie, man. I mean, these rookies are going to make mistakes. Everyone is not going to be CJ Stroud. And I'm going to say that once again. They are going to make bad decisions. They're going to force some passes. They're going to do a lot of things that they used to do in college. They won't get away with in the NFL. And I think that's just Caleb's deal right now, trying to scramble and create plays, force passes into tight windows. Like, you can't do that at this level. But I honestly feel like there should be less pressure with Caleb because, once Keenan gets back, they can figure out a run game and get Odunze involved. I feel like the offense will start to flow a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. The offense, the pieces around him haven't helped at all, especially the run game. You mentioned DeAndre Swift. He's been,
bad, terrible,
very bad, awful. 2 yards per carry through 2 weeks, 48 rushing yards. And the reason why he's got to be such a focal point is this Bears run game has struggled. They needed a run game. They needed something to balance what Caleb Williams was going to be able to do through the air. Because the last 2 years, Justin Fields has been their run game. That was it. Now you need an actual running back, and they brought in DeAndre Swift, and there was high expectations, but he's been awful. He's been terrible, and that's been I think that's what's really plagued them. One of the big reasons why they've been struggled offensively is with the pass game not quite heating up, there's nowhere to go for the offense. At least if DeAndre Swift was playing well, they could find a way to run the ball and keep the defense guessing a little bit. But the pass game's still figuring things out. Receivers haven't been playing well. You need another, you need another aspect of the offense to work. That's got to be the run game, and it hasn't. I mean, that's got to get going at some point. I mean, your leading rusher is Caleb Williams. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be negative, but this just feels like the Justin Fields Bears. And that's not Caleb Williams' fault. I want to make that clear. But once again, like, he's doing everything he can, and he's got no help. I mean, that was the same thing with Fields. I mean, Roma Dunze hasn't been any very good at all. Right? 3 catches in 2 games. DJ Moore got a little bit better last week, but he still hasn't fully burst onto the scene, especially after the year he had last year, where he had over 1,300 yards in a career year. And you've got no run game. So they need to help him out. They need to help him out. It's not panic time, but this is just getting into that territory of Bears being the Bears, not helping their quarterback at all.
And, kind of another thing, I don't really think people fully understand how important you don't even have to have a great running game. You don't even need to rush for 200 yards per game. But what people kind of don't understand, let's just say the Bears, for instance, against Houston. So the thing is, when it comes to stopping the run, we don't need to bring any extra bodies. Our 4-down linemen will do enough to stop the run. That way, the linebackers have more freedom to just drop back and, drop back in coverage. Obviously, with a team like Houston that does have very great corners, a very good secondary, you don't have to do too much. The linebackers don't have to do too much. Hey, let's just drop back in coverage. They're not going to run the ball on us. They're not going to run the ball effective on us because, one, our 4 up front is doing enough to get a pass rush, but also stop the run. So, for the Bears' sake, if you can't run the ball, you're going to face a lot of teams that's just going to drop their linebackers back, drop them in coverage. They're going to play a lot of zone. Because, I mean, you don't need to commit to anything. They know that Chicago wants to throw the ball. They know Chicago can only throw the ball. So if they want to establish any type of offense, any type of success to help Caleb look good, they're going to have to figure out Swift. They're going to have to figure out Khalil Herbert, probably how you were saying off air with Braylon Allen and Breece Hall, some 2 running back sets, some eye candy in the backfield. They got to figure out something because just Caleb dropping back, trying to find DJ Moore all game because Roma Dunze can't get open and Mercedes Lewis is 60 and needs a wheelchair to get off the line of scrimmage. That's not a winning recipe for your rookie quarterback.
No, not at all. It's probably the opposite, if we're being honest, of a winning formula. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. With an offense struggling, try and get those 2 running back sets, get Herbert involved a little bit. He's got some burst. He's got some pop out of the backfield. We saw it at moments was it last year or 2 years ago where he had that stretch of games when I think it was David Montgomery who was out, and he had a stretch of games where he was like the hot waiver wire backup. I think it might have been 2022.
2 years ago was it. That actually started in Dallas. That's when Dallas and the Bears went to into Dallas, and 33
Dallas
points,
lose?
but they rushed all over them. No, we ended up beating them I think it was 49-33.
Okay,
but
winning.
Just that is kind of when you knew.
I was gonna say, I thought you were bringing up bad Cowboys memories again.
No. I mean, I have plenty of those, but that was just basically an introduction of Justin Fields, what he can be with a good running game, and when the offense is going, and they kind of just they chose the direction they went into. But right now, I mean, I guess you can say that for almost every team, and it's a known thing. But if you can't run the ball, you're just not going to be good. It's that simple.
Yeah. Totally. And that's the thing, in the NFL nowadays, you need to have an elite quarterback. You need to have a passing offense in order if you want to go far, but you still need to have a rushing offense, something to counteract or kind of complement what you have through the air, especially when the passing offense is struggling, because keep defense guessing. Right now, it's predictable. Like DeAndre Swift, 2 yards, not going to go anywhere. Then Caleb Williams, nobody open. Oh no. Mercedes Lewis, I need a wheelchair. That's about it. So
the man's too old to be on the football field.
Yeah. He's shot. He's done. I mean, I thought he was going to be an option for the Jets at one point because of obviously the Rodgers connection, the Rodgers, how many years he spent in Green Bay? I think it was 4 or 5 in Green Bay.
Yeah,
but
quite some time.
I was like, that was never going to happen.
Just, the confusion for me is like you have Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett, who you brought
Mhm.
over from the Chargers to use Mercedes Lewis in 2024.
Mhm.
That's kind of ridiculous, but I mean,
Yeah,
they must know something I don't.
I guess so. But I also have questions too. I don't know. This isn't all his fault, but I do have questions just about Matt Eberflus as a whole. I know he's on the defensive side of the football, but I still have questions about him as a coach. I still do. And I know the defense hasn't been the problem. That side of the football has been fine. But just from a locker room perspective, I still have questions. There still are some questions there with Chicago. But as a whole, I think maybe more of a bumpier year than we expected or some expected. But I guess we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Big game coming up against the Colts tomorrow. They got to find a way to get on track here. Then they got the Rams, and then they got Carolina. They should be Carolina. That's probably what maybe Caleb Williams' coming out party against Carolina. 4 touchdowns,
I
400
would say
yards.
the Rams. That whole entire team is
Rams
wrapped in
too,
bubble
yeah.
wrap right now, and we know the defense is no good. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that
that
could
can
be
be the
another one.
game for Williams to kind of get it going.
Yeah. And Indy too is obviously 0-2. They've shown some, they've been close, but haven't gotten it done. So that's a winnable game, even though they've lost both their games by 1 score. So we'll see. Anyway, moving on here to some positives. 2 teams that I don't think, well, one team I think we knew they would still be okay. The Vikings, I think, even with J.J. McCarthy going down, they would still be average. They were still going to find a way to win some games. I don't think anybody expected them to be this good, Sam Darnold to be this good, but the Saints, oh my God. I mean, 47-10 against Carolina. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, week 1, you're playing the Panthers. I mean, if us two went out there and played 2v11 right now against Carolina, we could probably muster up some points. So, okay, week 1, fine. At home, Carolina, win that game. But then to go into Dallas after they came off of a huge win against the Browns where their defense dominated and put up 44 on that defense on the road in Dallas, and another huge day from Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara. What a day it was for him. 4 touchdowns, a hat trick on the ground with 115 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he finished the day with 4 touchdowns total. He's got now this year, he's got 5 total, 4 on the ground, 1 in the air. The Saints, I mean, they are literally the 2007 Patriots right now. Where is this coming from?
Oh man, it comes from running the football. I'm just going to keep it so simple. I know we keep talking about Kubiak's system they got in there, but the Saints aren't doing anything special. Respectfully, not taking away anything from what the Saints have done. I witnessed firsthand what they can do last Sunday with the peer, punch in the mouth in Dallas. But simple. If we can run the football good, guess what? We're going to run the football. Eventually, you're going to commit to want to stop the run. We got the speedsters in Shaheed and Olave to throw a lot of play action at you, deep crossing routes, those type of things. And that's kind of all the Saints mustered up to do. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So with the Saints, I am actually quite surprised. This was another team we thought were going to be pretty bad. Also, it is week 2, so I mean, all can go wrong from here on out. But I just don't see the Saints falling off the face of the earth for the remainder of this season. Honestly, they might even sneak into the playoffs. Just, it might be one of those things where how we're kind of saying with Wilkes and Carolina, we're going to use Kubiak in this instance with calling the offense. When you have one guy you truly believe in, you would go to war for that one guy. Like they have completely bought in as a team, and they've just proved everybody wrong. So the Saints, I know I said off air, like I won't fully respect them unless they beat Philly on Sunday. I think they should be respected. I'm going to change my mind here. I think they should be respected. I think they're averaging 46.5 points, 45.5 points. In the NFL, is crazy. Like they literally look like they are Georgia right now, and every team they play is like Louisiana Monroe. So I'm going to respect the Saints. And this is just another test on Sunday to prove they're for real, or actually really for real, the front runner, if they can be.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I mean, they've been. I mean, they've proved me wrong. I'll tell you that. I'm kind of speechless with what they've done the first 2 weeks, putting up 40 plus points is just crazy, especially against, of course, a team like Dallas who had a lot of success the week prior. But yeah, I mean, I think the one positive going into it, it was negative, but the one positive about the Saints here is you had Carolina, who was tough, but after that, you have Dallas. Now you've got Philly, Atlanta, Kansas City, Tampa. So they've got coming up 4 more tough games where if they come out of this stretch 5 or 4 and or what are they now? 2-2. They come out of this stretch 5-1, or they win 4 of their or 3 of their next 4. You know, maybe they lose to Kansas City on the road, but find a way to beat Philly. Atlanta, even with the win, I still think is beatable. Kirk Cousins isn't all the way back. And in Tampa, you get them at home. If they come out of the stretch 5-1, then you definitely got to take them for real. But I agree. I don't know if I'm ready to jump on the train yet because it's still only week 2. They've got a game against Philly coming up. If they beat Philly tomorrow, I think you really start to take them for real. Now that's 3-0. That's 2 wins against 2 teams that have a chance to win their own division in Philly and Dallas, or the front runners in their own division. Now you're 3-0. 2 teams that made the playoffs last year, you beat them. One of them coming on the road. Then you can really, I think then you really start talking about how good they are, how real they can be. Not ready quite yet to say they are for real, but you mentioned Clint Kubiak. He's obviously been great. He's been a really, really kind of a gem for them at the offensive coordinator spot. Players have bought in. Players respect them. Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling for New Orleans. I mean, what's the ceiling? They're not going to put up 40 points every week, but what's the ceiling if they continue this trend of Carr doing enough, Alvin Kamara dominating? I mean, are we looking at a 12-win Saints team here, 13 wins? I mean, how crazy can we get?
I would say 11. I would
11?
say 10 to 11. You still got Tampa, and I mean, I know we haven't spoke about Tampa this year through 2 weeks, but I mean, to go into first to do what you did at Washington in week 1, and then to go into Detroit and handle Detroit how you did, that got to be talked about, got to be respected. Atlanta will start to get things rolling and figured out. So, I mean, we really thought this was a 2-team race. This is going to be a 3-team race, and right now it looks like the Saints might just win it. So I think if they continue to play how they're looking, everybody stays healthy, I can say 11 wins for the Saints.
It's crazy. 3-team race, Carolina Panthers.
Literally. That is just
the state of the NFC South. I mean, this division might have, I mean, if we're being honest, and I'm going to get crazy here for a second, Carolina Panthers are the worst team in football. But who knows? They might have the best team in football in that division too. Tampa keeps winning. New Orleans keeps winning. I mean, 1 seed in the NFC coming out of the NFC South. Who would have saw that coming at the beginning of this year? It's just crazy. And they have a real opportunity too, the Saints and the Bucks, to jump out here, right? Because Dallas lost, Philly lost. Niners are banged up, so they're kind of just treading water right now until they get healthy. They have a chance here to really make some ground over these next couple of weeks if they can keep winning in terms of potentially getting a 1 seed. That's how crazy they've been. Because there's only 4 2-0 teams in the NFC right now. Seattle, Tampa, New Orleans, obviously, Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota, New Orleans, are they for real? Are the Saints for real? I mean, I think the Bucks are pretty for real, but it's crazy. The NFC's pretty crazy right now, for being honest.
And I'm actually pleased about it. I mean, the last few years, it's like, okay, well, there's going to be Dallas, and then there's going to be Philly, and there's going to be San Fran. Like, who else? Now you throw Tampa in the mix. You're throwing the Lions in the mix. Maybe even the Saints. You're throwing them in the mix. And another one, I know
Can't believe it.
they are sitting at 1-1, and you actually called this all throughout the offseason. The Cardinals are impressing me. That is another one I don't think we should be sleeping on right now is the Cardinals.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Cardinals, if we're being honest, should be 2-0. They should be 2-0. They should have beat Buffalo. They blew that lead down the stretch. terrible offense down the stretch on the road. Last week, of course, they blow out the Rams. Now they've got the Lions, another big test at home. If they can beat Detroit, you get to 2-1. It's a big game too
That's
for
huge.
Detroit. I mean,
That's
things are
huge.
really starting. This is the fun part. Things are starting to get real. September is starting to come to a close here. Week 3, week 4 is kind of your final 2 weeks of, oh, it's early. It's, it's rust, all that stuff. Once October starts, then all that goes out the window. So things are really going to start getting interesting. But yeah. So that's one team. The other team's in Minnesota, and that's the Vikings. I mean, I don't think the expectations were as low for the Vikings as we had them for the Saints. I think the Vikings' expectations this year were kind of, before the J.J. McCarthy injury, were play with Darnold. They'll probably be average. Go with McCarthy. There'll be some growing pains. There might be some fun wins, though. There might be some fun moments, and that's it. And instead, this has turned into Sam Darnold playing at an MVP level through 2 weeks. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, what kind of NFL world are we living in where Sam Darnold is 10th in yards, 4th in touchdowns, and 4th in QBR? I mean, what NFL world? We thought last year was crazy. And now we're talking about Dennis Allen and the Saints and Sam Darnold and the Vikings. Crazy world. And I will say this. I am very happy for Sam Darnold. We all know as Jets fans, he got the raw end of the stick here. They gave him nothing. They ruined him here. I'm happy for Sam that he's finally having success. Obviously, the stops in Carolina and San Francisco. He had moments in Carolina early in that 2021 season that showed, okay, maybe he's turning it around. And then, of course, it fell apart. Was a backup in San Fran, never really got many chances. Now Minnesota's getting a chance. I mean, he's been fantastic. And he's making Justin Jefferson happy, that's for sure, because he's finding ways to get him the ball, and he's done it, too, without Jordan Addison the last 2 weeks as well. It has been the Darnold Jefferson show in Minnesota. I mean, I love the coach, and it seems like he's found something with him. Thoughts on the Vikings?
Well, first, just to go back to Carolina quickly. I mean, you look at Baker Mayfield and you look at Sam Darnold right now, you've got to be shaking your head. I know that's absolutely sickening, but for Minnesota's sake, I mean, that was a team during the offseason. We kind of didn't know which way to lean. It's like, how bad will Sam Darnold look, but also how good will Sam Darnold look? Like, we really weren't sure, but they are actually looking pretty good. And I mean, like you just said, that is without Addison. That's without Hawkinson, which we still don't quite yet know when he's coming back. And the Giants is one thing. It's like, okay, you beat the Giants. We get it. But the Niners, that defense isn't hurt. Respectfully, that defense is not hurt. So, and this is the second time. I mean, Minnesota beat them last year. So I guess they just have the 49ers number for whatever reason. But for Sam Darnold, I mean, to be limited with the amount of weapons you got, considering your wide receiver 2 and arguably probably the best tight end in the game you can say, put him up there, are both injured. It's just Justin Jefferson kind of, putting the team on his back. You got to respect it. I mean, looking at how the division is shaping up, I guess this is another Saints situation of how real are the Vikings. I mean, the Packers are injured with Jordan Love. We don't know when he's coming back quite yet. Detroit seems like they're a little bit figured out already. Chicago, well, the same old Bears. Are the Vikings for real? Like, are the Vikings going to sneak out with a division title this year? We don't know.
Yeah. I mean, last week was a huge statement win for them. The Giants game's one thing to beat the Giants. If anybody could probably beat the Giants right now. And we'll see who the real winner is when the toilet bowl happens in a little couple weeks. Giants,
Germany.
Panthers.
I feel bad for Germany. Boy.
That's gonna be a fun one. That'll be morning game. You'll get up, you'll go right back to sleep watching that one.
I think that's the mid-off. It's just whoever can out mid the other team is whoever can be less mid in that game will find a way to win that game.
That's the game for the number one overall pick in next year's draft.
Basically, the Quinn Ewers Bowl.
Yep,
that's all it is.
Yeah, it is the Quinn Ewers Bowl. So yeah, you got Houston, another big test against Houston. Not the Vikings got a lot of tests here, right? San Fran, you get Houston tomorrow, Green Bay on the road, then the Jets in London, bye week, then Detroit, which will be the first divisional matchup for them at home. So
Who would have?
similar to the Saints, if the Vikings continue to play well, you're gonna have to start to respect them because it's gonna be against good teams.
And I'll just say, just so the Vikings do continue to win out, or let's just say they are sitting at 2 losses going to that Jets game. Let's just say the Jets have 1 or 2 losses. I don't know who else you guys have on your schedule up until that point that kind of makes you nervous. But who just would have thought that Sam Darnold would meet the Jets in a meaningful game? I mean,
I
I
know.
would not have guessed it.
It's crazy. I mean, we might see the 3-1 Jets and like the 4-0 Vikings in that game. I mean, we all as Jets fans circled that game on the calendar early in the season as a game of
Ease.
our defense against McCarthy or Darnold. You should dominate. Now you're looking at it as a game of holy crap. We're facing MVP favorite Sam Darnold.
It already seems like Arnold is on like a villain arc kind of revenge tour because after the San Fran game, he's like, you should have never cut me. So
Yeah.
That Grim Reaper meme, knocking on the doors. That's the Jets are next. He's knocking on that door, like, hey, hey, you remember me? So that's gonna be a good game. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. That'll be a lot more entertaining than many of us thought going into the season, and that'll be a good London game because, well, that's a London game. The Germany game is in Germany, but I'm talking about morning game. That'll be a good morning game. I don't know exactly the rest of the London schedule this season, but I know week whenever they play it's not a good one. Let's see. Jets Vikings is the first London game of the year. Week 6 will be Jacksonville Chicago. That won't be too bad.
2 mid quarterbacks going.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe at that point, Caleb, they figure it out with him, but if not, yeah. New England, Jacksonville.
Absolutely not. Mac Jones return. Trevor Lawrence gets hurt.
Yeah. No games week 8. Week 9, no games. Week 10, that's the beauty. Giants, Carolina.
All right. So pick up a few shifts at work that day or something. Find something to do productive.
And that's it. I think that's it. So you might be looking at Jets Vikings as the one that's the one to watch.
It's gonna be a good one.
Yes. All right. Underdog picks.
Underdog picks.
All right. So last week was a huge week for you. Great week. 3-0, if I'm correct.
3-0. I mean, all my underdogs were actually just outright winners. Saints, Bucks, Falcons.
Yes. I went 1-2. So I'm 2-4 through 2 weeks, 6 picks. You are 4-2 through 2 weeks, 6 picks. So I'm gonna have to make up some ground this week if I want to get back in the mix. Same thing with the actual NFL teams. Underdog picks get, can't dig yourself in too much of a hole early in the season. I will say though, at least I'm not this New York radio host. So there's a New York sports radio host called named Sean Morash. I don't know if you've heard of him, but his game picks through the first 2 weeks of the season, he was 0-10. And the first, they do 5 games every week, including the Jets and Giants local games. But they do 5 games. He was 0-10. His first game that he picked right was the Jets game. Thursday night. So he is now 1-10 going into this week. So if you feel bad about your bets or your game picks, just know that you could be 1-10 going into.
And honestly, I mean that one victory is not impressive because I think the entire world picked the Jets to beat the Patriots. Yeah. So he doesn't really get respect for that.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. And somehow he picked the Giants, I guess, both weeks too. I don't know how you do that. I did that, actually. I picked them to cover. And I won't be That is me. I will not be picking the Giants this week. I will never probably pick the Giants again. Unless if they're underdogs against Carolina. Depending on how bad it gets, that might be a game where it's like you got to pick them because Carolina is just that bad.
For his sake, that is what we call drinking on the job because there's just no way you pick the Giants twice.
No. Nope.
Even though your Giants pick last week, it wasn't actually bad. Just Washington managed to. That's it.
If they had a kicker, it would be I would be 2-1 and I'd be 3-3. But instead they didn't have a kicker because in the Giants' head, why pick a kicker? Why have a kicker? Why? Who needs a kicker? Who needs one?
Probably. Well, maybe the assumption was we probably won't get into field goal range that often this season. So there's no point of wasting a roster space on a kicker when you can go add a fifth quarterback, 3 on the active roster, 2 on the practice squad, because with the way the quarterbacks are, you always need an extra one. So,
yeah, I mean,
just a thought.
Who knows? Maybe. Hear me out. Daniel Jones sucks at quarterback, revives his career in the offseason. He starts kicking, and the Giants got themselves a $40 million kicker.
I mean, that does open up the door for a lot of fake field goals and, fake punts.
Yeah.
Special teams is a key part of this game. So
he'll score more.
Quarterback obviously isn't the answer.
Quarterback.
Well, quarterback's not the answer anyway. So, yeah, why not learn how to just go ahead and kick some field goals here?
Or hold.
That too. Might Tony Romo with. Knowing Daniel Jones. Tony Romo in Seattle, that's the Daniel Jones thing. So, absolutely not.
That is true. Anyway, you got the honors. You went 3-0 last week. Let's hear the picks.
All right, 3-0 last week, clean sweep. 0-3 this week. I'm already prepared because I'm taking the Panthers and Andy Dalton +6.
Wow. Oh, wow. That feels like the Giants picks I've been doing the last 2 weeks.
Something's just telling me. I mean, again, their defense is not really that terrible. So if they can just score a few points here and there, maybe 10 points, I believe in them. So I'm going to go Panthers +6 on this one. The option of picking would just felt so bad this week. I kind of just basically drew out of a hat. Packers +3. That's going to be pick number 2. And then I'm going to go Cardinals +3 as well. I think they might win outright, but just to be safe, just because I don't know if Detroit's going to drop 2 in a row, Cardinals +3. They have been very explosive offensively. So I think they keep that up this week.
All right. So wait, you got Packers, Carolina, Cardinals.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. So Panthers.
I know one that you got here, which I don't know.
Should I save the best for last?
Yeah, the best.
All right. I'm gonna go. What order do I want to go in now? I'll save the best for last. I'm gonna go Chargers +3 on the road in Pittsburgh. I've loved what I've seen from the offense. Like you said, we were talking off air. It's a miracle that Jim Harbaugh has found a way to make Quentin Johnson catch the football. So that in itself, Coach of the Year votes should be starting to pile in. I mean, despite Pittsburgh being 2-0, I don't think you love what you've seen out of the offense. The defense has been great. I know it's the home opener. That place would be roaring as it always is with the terrible towels in Pittsburgh. But I've loved what I've seen from the Chargers. They've had a good balance. The passing game's been good. J.K. Dobbins has been amazing for them through 2 weeks. So I'll roll with the Chargers on the road to get to 3-0 with Harbaugh. +3 Chargers. This next one, it's tough. I'm debating on 2 games. Packers +3, Eagles +2.5. I'm going to go Eagles +2.5 because I need to make some ground on you. So if the Packers hits, then I don't make any ground. So I'm going to go, even though I've gone Packers the last 2 weeks, or last week with Malik Willis. And I like his chances again against his former team. I'm going to go Eagles +2.5. I know we spent a segment on the Saints. I don't think they're that for real yet. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Go out there and put up a 40 on Philly. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Philly lose again. I find it funny. I love when the Eagles fans lose, and I love seeing Eagles fans cry, even though they're not even in my conference. I live in an area. I'm like I said, I'm about 40 minutes from New York, 40 minutes from Philly, so I am too close to Philly to understand how hated how much I'm too close to their fans to hate. I just hate them. That's why. Either way, I hate Eagles fans. I think that's pretty common for most people. So I'll take the Eagles plus 2.5, even though, we don't like them. But I think the Saints are going to cool off. I also think the Eagles are playing a little desperate. Last week was awful the way they lost that game. And in Cowboys. So I'm bounce back week for the NFC East. After 2 terrible losses, I'm going Cowboys, Eagles. Cowboys +1 at home against Baltimore. I know Baltimore's desperate. I just don't see Dallas at home getting blown out or at least losing back-to-back games. I think last week was just you ran into the New Orleans Saints, the Saints train that won't be stopped until tomorrow because I said so. Because I picked it. So Chargers +3, Eagles +2.5, Cowboys +1. 3-0 week. I need it. I'm 2-4 right now. It ain't good. I'm on the hot seat.
All I'm saying, hear me out. I don't think Derrick Henry has rushed for more than 60 yards in a game this year. He will rush for 60 tomorrow by halftime. I'm calling it right now.
Not believing in the not buying it. So you really are down on the Cowboys defense.
I'm down and out. Just an overrated group. Terrible. A bunch of pretty boys that want to take, tunnel outfit pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And can't stop a soul on defense. And it's not even the secondary. So let me backtrack. It's not the secondary at all whatsoever. It's the linebackers and the D-line, not Micah Parsons. Everybody else, though, that just I don't know what they do on Sundays because obviously it's not play football. So I am down and out on Dallas, and I'm not bought in until they prove me wrong.
All right. So what will you be bought in if they win this week?
Absolutely not.
Well, what will it take?
The next, okay, if I'm correct, I think the next set of games goes Baltimore, the Giants.
Yes,
Detroit,
Thursday night Giants.
We might lose that one.
No way.
Baltimore, the Giants, Detroit bye week, and then San Fran, if I'm correct. I will not be bought in. They gotta win. They have to win their next few games. They need to beat each one of those teams, especially the Lions and the Niners. We beat the Lions last year, but and again, NFC front runner. We all think the Lions have a great chance to make the Super Bowl. And then the 49ers basically are part-time owners of the Dallas Cowboys, kind of how Rodgers is with the Bears. Same thing. So until we can prove that we can beat the Niners and we beat the Lions, I'm not buying in.
You heard it here first. What if Zeke goes off tomorrow for like 150 yards? Vintage Zeke. Will you buy?
I mean, I'm still not buying in.
You won't buy the Zeke stock.
That's obviously a fluke. I mean.
You got the Romo. No. You have not the Romo. Jeez. You have a Brady game tomorrow, right?
I don't know. We might, because it's the game of the week, 425. So we just might.
Because Brady's not with the Rams Niners, right?
I don't think so. So it might be us, which we are 1-1. That's the irony of it. We can never seem to do right with Brady in attendance. I mean, we did beat Cleveland, get blown out by New Orleans. So Brady comes and calls the Ravens game. Now we lose by 30. Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out if you got the Brady game tomorrow.
I think we're on Fox.
Probably do.
It might.
It is on Fox. If it's the game of the week, you'll definitely have the Brady game.
Great. All right. Ravens by 13. Calling it right now.
You definitely have Brady game. Because you got holy moly. Look at all this. The map of the game.
Oh man.
Wow. Anyway. So Cowboys tomorrow. Is this year gonna be a changing of the guard? like when we get to the playoff podcasts, like wild card round or divisional round, are we going to be talking about the Jets instead of the Cowboys?
Absolutely, yes.
Really?
You already know. You already know
The
when we
Jets,
talk.
I feel really good about the chances coming up. Cowboys, I still think make the playoffs though. I think we both got
You,
playoff football ahead of us.
I left them out of my playoff rankings. You remember that, or I
Yeah.
think I might have thrown them in there. Well, I lied. I threw them in there slightly at that 6 or 7, but said that was determined on the Packers and like the Cardinals on what they do.
Mhm.
So if it was up to me, I would have left Dallas completely out of the playoffs. I just don't believe in them. I don't. And the thing,
Alright.
it's not even. I'm not even going to go on a long rant. It's not necessarily the quarterback. It's the weapons and the defense in big games. I just don't trust them. So I just don't think we're gonna get it done.
All right. Hearing from a non-biased Cowboys fan here, a real
Absolutely.
realist.
A realistic.
Realistic.
Yeah. We're being realistic here.
Realistic.
That's all.
That's yes. Any closing thoughts?
1:00. Let's enjoy some college football and
Yes.
prep for tomorrow.
Yes, sounds good. We will be back next week with another episode. Until then, enjoy college today and all of the NFL action tomorrow. Let's go. I don't know who I was going to say let's go. I was going to say let's go football. I was going to actually say let's go Jets, but that doesn't make sense because they played stress-free Sunday for me. So let's go Jets still. And yes, we'll talk to you soon.